So he's reaching for my phone, and I said, nope, that's just not gonna happen.
The surveillance video is silent. Now, Tovar is revealing what worked during his scary encounter.
He actually asked
For my phone, and I said, back. Like, that is just, like, that's actually scary. Tony's just like, so he's reaching for my phone, and I said, nope, that's just not gonna happen.
The surveillance video is silent. Now, Tovar is revealing what words were exchanged during his scary encounter.
He actually asked me, I need the money out of your wallet. I just said, I got $2 in my wallet, and that's for my next beer. I actually told him, hey, since you're back there, get me a beer. He looked at me and says, no, get your own beer.
Not only does Tony shake off the robber with the gun in his ribs like he's bulletproof, he starts shit-talking him. He starts going like Xbox Live mode. He's like, now he's just taking the piss here. Like, of course, the surveillance camera is silent, so there's no way to know for sure if that's what he said, but I trust him. I really do. Like, I imagine he actually did say that, because he does say something. You can see it in the surveillance camera footage. He does say something to the robber when he's behind the bar after lighting up a cigarette. And I love the way he tells the story, too. He's like, yeah, you know, so told him, might as well make me a beer, right? And then I wrote his name in the death note. Also, I've got to say, God bless that bar's prices. If you're getting $2 beers there, you hold on to that tight. That's precious. I can't remember the last time there was a beer for $2 at any place I've been in Tampa. The amount of time Tony had this gun just pointed right at his face is just frightening. And yet Tony doesn't flinch at all, just lighting up the cigarette right in front of him. It just oozes intimidation, like his spiritual pressure like a character out of Bleach is on another level here. Now obviously this is the most dangerous way imaginable of handling a situation like this. It's extraordinarily lucky that Tony didn't end up just getting shot and killed here. It's extremely lucky that no one was hurt in this entire situation here. And I do want to mention the guy next to Tony. So as you can see, he's getting the gun shoved into his back to bring his wallet out and give him the money inside of it, which he does. He complies, which is the right thing to do. And then moments later, he also lights up a cigarette just like Tony. So now you have two dudes here just kind of hard fucking chilling, smoking a cigarette during this robbery. I guess Tony was just giving out chill pills, and this dude's like, alright, you know what, I'll just go ahead and start smoking a cigarette too, you know, no reason to stress.
After taking money from other patrons, the robber forced the bartender to open the cash register. He took all the money, $200 in total. All the while, Tovar just sits there taking it all in. His advice for anyone else who finds themselves in a similar situation, don't do what he did.
If you don't want to get hurt and you're not sure, comply.
He is absolutely right. Tony's behavior here should not be emulated under any circumstances. The best thing you can do is comply, because it's just not worth getting killed over. You never know how unhinged the other person is. Like I said, Tony just got extremely lucky here. Like, this easily could have gone much worse, and it's just very fortunate that it didn't. Now, Tony seems like a great guy. Inside Edition actually did a follow-up with Tony the year after this happened, just to kind of see how he's doing and what's going on, and he just seems like a legitimate sweetheart.
Tony's been a master mechanic for 38 years.
Hello.
He currently works at Century Tire and Auto in St. Louis, Missouri. His boss agrees with the headline
everything's
seen
good this
on
morning.
Inside Edition's YouTube channel more than 50 million times.
Tony is the world's chillest man.
A master mechanic and a master at chilling. Even his boss seems like a super cool character. I love the way he comes in and says, Tony is the world's chillest man. It reminds me of like an old radio show host. Behold, the man who can chill under any circumstances, in a pool of sharks, in a pool of lava, in a pool. He can chill anywhere, in the face of bullets, the face of cannons. You can't stop him from chilling. I don't know, he just seems cool.
Inside this bar behind me is a regular watering hole.
I lived right there.
And they got
There are local neighbors that depend on coming here and feeling that they're safe, to have their refreshments, and to not be bothered.
Is there anything more wholesome? Just a mechanic and his boss and his friends going to the local bar just to shoot the shit.
Tony wants people to know that even though he seems untroubled by danger, he fought to have this seat at the bar.
I'm a very honest person, forthright, hardworking, and nobody is going to take what I have worked hard for under any circumstances.
As for the suspect in the armed robbery case, Kevin Moore pleaded not guilty to charges against him. He remains behind bars as he's being held with no bond.
He actually wrote a letter while he was incarcerated and apologized to the bar. And we put that letter on the wall. And people ask me, well, what do you think about him? I said, you know what?
You plead non-guilty, but then you say, I'm sorry for robbing you? That sounds like you're guilty.
If I met him again today, I'd ask him to pray with me.
Amen. And that's the most recent update I can find on Tony Tovar. That's just, I don't know, it's just so sweet. They then frame the apology note from the robber. Like, what the fuck? That's so cool. Again, definitely like the worst way ever of handling a robbery situation, because he could have just been shot and killed for it, but he didn't. And he seems like a really wholesome guy, and, you know, he's still earned that title, the world's chillest man. It's been quite a few years now, and I can't think of a more chill man in the world, at least none that pops into my head immediately. So yeah, I just wanted to tell the story of Tony Tovar, because it's been quite a while, and I haven't seen his name around in a long time. I hope he's doing well. I hope the bar is still doing well, and it's safe, and everyone there is safe. That's really about it. So yeah.
Wrong video. There we go.
Now I'm gonna give you a history lesson.
We got some dumb.
I'm gonna give you a history lesson.
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
All right, we're gonna be playing Grounded. Recommended to me by Dayla. We're gonna play it for, what is this game? Or on August 28th.
Unfunny jokes come out of the same birth.
You fucking guys are unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
We're back. Evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Why You Laughing, a history of comedy podcast. And today, I am pleased to introduce to you Dr. William H. Cosby. That's right, the Cos, baby. A guy who, a lot of people love, and he's just been boasted about the last few years. So I thought we should maybe shed a little light on the subject. I don't know if you guys know, this guy's got some demons. He's got some skeletons in the old closet that
LOL.
exposed.
People are scared of spiders, so they have to turn off spider
we'll
mode.
explain what we're doing today with the Cosby episode in a moment. But first, I want to say welcome back, everybody. We took the summer off, basically. If you're watching on Patreon, it hasn't been that long. So do remember that members get early access. And in the case of some of these episodes, they get extremely early access. You guys are probably going to get this like a month and a half before the general public. So go start bragging to your friends. Hey, guys, I got the new Why You Laughing.
You got the hot cause.
Yeah. All the kids are going to be jealous. We got served a real Cosby today, guys. So, if you are jealous, if you're experiencing FOMO, then go to blindmike.net, where you can find all of our links. If you want to become a member on Patreon or YouTube to get early access and bonus content to all the stuff we do here, then please do so. Or if you just want to support the show for free, wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and also if you leave 5-star reviews, like, comment, subscribe, whatever your given platform allows you to do. All that stuff helps the algorithm. It helps people that might like this show find the show. So support the show in whatever way you see fit. We appreciate it. And thanks to you guys for... I got to say, it's both hurtful and nice, because we don't have an audience that complained very much. A few people said, where's Why You Laughing? But no one was bitching. But I think,
But no one was
very
bitching?
Successful is really what it means. So keep bumping those numbers, baby. We need people complaining when we take a few weeks off.
There's a lot of people asking where it is in the Blind Mike Project chat.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. So today we are talking about Bill Cosby. That's one I've been waiting to do for some time, and wanted to take my time with the episode to make sure I did it right, because Bill Cosby, as I joked at the beginning, is a guy that has been talked about a lot. And I toiled over exactly how to do this episode, because from a criminal perspective, I think that's been covered. There's documentaries like Chasing Cosby, and we need to talk about Cosby. So you guys can go into that if you want people really breaking down the crimes of Bill Cosby. There have also been people that have talked about the career of Bill Cosby and what a legend he is. Today, I wanted to merge the two and kind of see where they intersected, because I find Bill Cosby's career fascinating for a couple of levels. One, he is genuinely one of the most respected stand-ups ever. Of all time.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, Pryor and Carlin
Hey Coleman.
always here.
Hey Annie Girl, what are we playing today? We're playing Grounded for what is this game? I know very little about it other than what Dayla has told me about it. So right now I'm just setting up my keyboard commands, doing all the boring stuff.
That sentence didn't make any sense. They named me here most third, but you guys get what I'm saying. You know, it's Cosby, Woody Allen. Like, Lenny Bruce is kind of out of the discussion because people of the last several generations weren't really influenced by Lenny Bruce. So Cosby was one of these early guys. Cosby and like Bob Newhart, in my opinion, are guys that really changed, helped change stand-up into what it is now. They kind of bridged the gap between vaudeville and Catskills guys to Pryor and Carlin and Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock and these guys that tackle social issues and talk about their lives and all sorts of things like that. So today we are focusing on the hypocrisy of a comedy legend, as well as how his, shall we say, lifestyle, his criminal lifestyle, impacted what his legacy is today. So hope you guys enjoy it, and hope you like the way we approach this one.
Is Bill Cosby the original comics comic?
How so? How do you mean?
Because you never hear anyone that's not a comic put him in their Mount Rushmore, but every comic's like, this is the guy.
I don't know if I agree with that. Bill Cosby himself is one of the most
gigantic,
one of the biggest specials of all time. People say even if they don't like Bill Cosby, they go, I never really liked Bill Cosby's comedy. Bill Cosby himself was great, though. I think Cosby, because of the success of the show, became a figure. Now, he never really stopped doing stand-up. He put out a special in, like...
I just realized he had no sound this whole time.
Like, right before the... It's funny, because I remember Cosby put out a special on Comedy Central right before the scandals came out. And it was called, like, Far From Finished. And I remember, based on the commercials, me and a buddy of mine joked, like, oh, boy, this is the kind of special you put out, like, right before you die. It's like, Bill Cosby, Far From Finished. And then in hindsight, we're like, boy, he probably wished he died right there.
That would have been a great time to go.
That would have been the time to go. Because then some people would be like, here, Bill Cosby did some, drugging and raping. And people would be like, come on.
Look at Michael Jackson.
Right. Kind of. Sure.
No, everyone's still, thumping his tunes.
I suppose that's true, yeah. Anyway.
There we go. Now I have
I think
sound.
the reason you don't hear Cosby in the pantheon
Silly me.
with Pryor and Carlin in that way is probably because the show got him so famous on a different level.
Right.
Kind of like Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy. Unlike those guys, Cosby kept doing stand-up.
Right.
But Seinfeld as well, where it's like...
I guess I'll just play normal. I don't know anything about this game.
And it's like, is this discussion because the show was so good, or is it because he's that good of a stand-up? But we will be breaking that down today as well. So Cosby's childhood, he was a star athlete in Philadelphia growing up.
Willow Branch. Boo! Your parents hate you.
I feel this is true of a lot of comics.
Peter. My friends call
where
me Pete.
they're not dumb kids necessarily. In fact, a lot of them are incredibly smart. But they just do not give a fuck about what they're being taught in school and lose interest. That seems to be a common theme in a lot of the great comics.
Alley hoops? Why do these people hate their kids?
And then you also have guys like Greg Giraldo who went to Harvard. So it runs the gamut. But Cosby's the guy that dropped out.
Maxwell Small. Okay, Small's funny, but, Small's like a regular name. They name him, like, Big Small.
And again, this is stuff he's talking about on stage. But
Maxwell isn't a great name
aspect
for a
Cosby
small,
I find very interesting that we're going to dive into today.
Yep,
he mentioned something that piqued my interest.
This is him becoming a honorary officer in the Navy.
Actually, Hoops here. Ready to mix it up?
You see,
I guess we'll just be Alley Hoops.
I didn't like the language that was being used. I didn't like the yelling. I didn't like the threats. I never heard, as I said, I never heard profanity that I'm accustomed to hearing off and on. I just didn't know how to adjust to
I guess it doesn't matter.
This man yell at someone that it was 200 pounds of caterpillar pus.
I will be right back. I have to grab a flosser. I got chicken stuck in my teeth, and it's driving me insane. I'm gonna see if there's an intro sequence that I can pause first, though. Yeah, it just sucks.
So I wrote my mother to say how horrible this was, and for her to see if she could get me out.
You know, he's being funny there, but what
You think you outsmarted me? The mighty Muldoon? I don't think so, Yoked Girth. Stay tuned for what happens next on Yoked Girth. Now a word from our sponsor. Kids, are you ready for a new wild and wacky Puncho fruit flavor? Africa.
Hell yeah, Puncho Fruit! This is a rad commercial.
Make sure you get your Billy Hog hot dog before you jet away.
Good morning, Brook Hollow. Today is October 20, 1990. This is your news. We have a special breaking report. The police department has released information that more local teenagers have gone missing. They were last seen earlier this week, and the only connection between the teenagers is that they are all students at Brook Hollow High School. This could be linked to the disturbing trend of other possible abductions and missing teenagers from our otherwise quiet town.
Ew, I need some V-Sync there.
Teenagers or has any other information, please contact the police department. The mayor of Brook Hollow has put a curfew into effect for anyone under 18 starting tonight. Now to other news. In the business world, ominous practical technology, science, and behavior.
Cool intro, cool intro. I don't like the screen tearing. It doesn't seem like it's being broadcasted as a screen tear, but it is for me. What? Who dropped a parachute in here? Oh, I'm in the case?
Hey, where am I? What the heck is this place? Everything seems so big.
Okay.
Whoa. Or am I really, really small?
Cool. So, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fix that screen tearing. Much better. And I will be right back. I need to go brush my teeth. It's driving me insane. Okie dokie. Much better. Lamau just got here in the BRB. That's funny. Well, you know how it is. Alright, cool. So, I'm in some sort of case, and it looks to be some sort of formula that may have kept us shrunk or preserved or something? I don't know. Could be just water. But it looks like it's going into our wrists, so unless we had like an IV or something.
I'm interested in right there is him talking about profanity, because that becomes ultimately Cosby's undoing, really.
Right.
Is his obsession with being a nanny for comedy,
Baseball.
monitoring other people's language, and how they dress and carry themselves.
Why do you call yourself by your last name?
Ultimately, why people looked at him and
Because your first name's Allie Hoops?
thought like,
well, it's not Allie
"Whoa,
Hoops.
you're
Well,
doing
you know what I
insane."
mean.
I mean, of course, the crimes he was committing is a whole other aspect. But it's what made people like Hannibal Buress, which we'll get to. Like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? And we did an early episode. By the way, if you're watching Why Are You Laughing for the first time, go back and check out our back catalog. Because in a very early episode, we talked about the comedy philosophy of Jerry Seinfeld. And I was very critical of it. Because I think Seinfeld talks about comedy in a very high-minded and pompous way that I don't feel matches his writing output necessarily. I get very frustrated with the way Seinfeld talks about his career sometimes. But even in that episode, the one caveat I have to give in Seinfeld's favor is that he
So
never
just like Rust?
told other people how to live their lives, how to orchestrate their careers. You know, Seinfeld would be on a panel with Ricky Gervais and Louis C.K. and Chris Rock, and respected all of them. He would give his opinions, but he wouldn't necessarily agree with them.
From nearby.
But didn't dictate how they should conduct themselves.
I showed you.
Seinfeld has produced stuff for Colin Quinn, who's an entirely different comic. He's
I'm a
friends
bug
with,
killer.
You know, Chris Rock, the young.
Well, I
guys
saved
he
another
likes,
bug from a bug,
Mark
but
Norman
whatever.
and Sam Morrill. All these guys are comics that are completely different from Seinfeld, particularly with the language they use and the subject matter. But Seinfeld doesn't wave his finger at them. And that's something that Cosby would do constantly. Now, there's also interviews, like Cosby was on the Dick Cavett show, and he's talking about the same thing.
Hey, leave him
like
alone.
profanity and stuff like that. And he says, but I would never tell another comic
Stop being a bully.
how to do their act, because there are some people that do, they use vulgar language that sell as many tickets as I do. And we found out that wasn't true. So I'd go out on a limb and say that this Bill Cosby seems like a real liar. Probably the worst crime he's guilty of.
He's just a big fibber.
Yeah, I think so. I think everything he says may not hold water. So that's an interesting.
Hi, what are you?
We'll get into.
I don't know what a weevil is.
Let's hear another. I believe this is another stand.
I don't like how much noise you make.
Cosby's first album.
Yep.
I played football at Temple University.
Oh, I can throw it.
I was the first, second, third string fullback. Cool. Because of the fact that they knocked out all the other fullbacks and things. But coaches have different methods of getting a team up. When I say getting a team up, I mean to make the players angry enough so they go out and really want to smash together. And one method that a coach used was that this guy would put a record on in the locker room. See, and the guy would play the record, and the music would go, you know, the guys would, the glands would secrete, and
Ah, okay. I have food and water meter. Good to know. Good to know.
And our coach went out and he bought the wrong record. He bought Exodus. And, we went out and everybody went home. But the real method, though, is that a coach will talk to a team. This is called getting them up.
Hello?
And our coach talked to us. I'll never forget this game. He said, fellas, he said, you know, we're out here to win, and we really want to win because we want to win. You guys want to win? Yeah, coach. It's all right, then start acting like it. Let me hear you say,
You
kill,
can.
kill.
Oh, that's
Let me hear you
cool.
say, fight, fight.
Well,
Let me
cool.
hear
I'm
you
just gonna
say,
play in
you
third
wanna win.
person
We
then.
want to win. Are you guys ready? Yeah, coach, we're ready. We're running around, tearing up the lockers, ripping up paper, busting the bitches. We're ready.
Okay, you.
Say, fight, fight. Everybody, it's okay. Go out there and get him. And the door was locked.
So what Cosby was really good at, in my opinion, was in the what I still consider like the early days of stand-up, the '60s.
I should keep searching and see what else I can turn
You know,
up.
Lenny Bruce gets a lot of credit for pushing boundaries, and without Lenny Bruce, maybe you don't have at all, or maybe you don't get it as soon. The idea of people being
Cool.
able
I like that
to
sound
talk about
effect.
whatever the fuck they want on stage. Like Lenny Bruce was literally getting arrested for the things that he said. But things that other guys don't quite get enough credit for, whether it's Bill Cosby or Bob Newhart, Mort Saul, what these guys I think did is further stand up in a way where, okay, you don't have to be Lenny Bruce, who, you know, by that time standard is kind of a shock jock.
I'm getting a lot of science power
Lenny
in my
Bruce got
brain.
to the point where he wanted to say offensive things. I think he kind of liked the reputation of being the guy that goes to jail for his words and reads his court transcripts on stage. What these other guys were doing is saying, hey, it's not the same setup punch. It's not the same shtick that you get up in the Catskills. But it's also something that, you know,
some
a stuffy
chocolate
crowd might be
bars.
able to go to. A family could enjoy a Bob Newhart record or a Bill Cosby record. And I think that's what those guys did very well, is Bill Cosby would talk about adult subject matter, but in a way that wasn't offensive, and it wasn't what everyone was doing. So I think that's where Bill Cosby
there's
took
the
the ball
house.
and ran with it from a history of stand-up standpoint.
And there's a laser gun.
Now, to me,
So that's probably what shrank me.
Bill Cosby was
Cool.
never like I never loved Bill Cosby as a
Oh,
guy.
and there's one too.
But then when you
Makes
go
sense.
back and listen to some of this stuff, you're like, wow, it really does.
Do I have a
hold
map?
up. I'm not on the floor
I
laughing.
do.
But like a lot of his jokes really hold up, which is incredibly impressive for.
Okay, analyze a
1960
peblet and
or
analyze plant
1963,
fiber.
obviously.
But I already analyzed plant
Like,
fiber.
if you go back and listen to a Lenny Bruce record now, in some ways it's inscrutable. Just the
Why can't
hey,
I
Daddy,
analyze
like the
it?
language he's using and the way he's talking.
So that's why I think maybe.
Oh, because it
Cosby
ran out
holds
of
up is 'cause
charges.
he's
See,
pretty
that
clean.
makes sense. See.
So like, the stuff that used to be like, whoa, I can't believe you said it, is pretty nothing.
See, I
now.
get it now. I'm
Yeah,
smart.
and yes, exactly. Yeah, the shock element has dissipated.
Yeah,
Whereas Cosby's just talking
yeah,
about things that still hold
yeah,
true. Essentially, he's talking
yeah.
about, you know, families and relationship with your mother,
So I gotta wait
father, or kids.
basically an hour
And
in game.
These are things
Okay.
that people can still relate to.
Build
and he's talking
axe.
about
What is
it
my
in a way
crafting
that was
menu?
kind of evergreen. So he was never like a favorite of mine growing up.
Oh, okay, let's figure it out.
For other reasons that we'll get into. Not what you're thinking
Inventory.
necessarily. But just because he was a crazy old man.
Inventory. Where's my?
But I totally get why he's respected
There we go.
as
Okay.
one of the great comics. when you go
Inventory,
back and listen to his
one.
stuff. And he got
Crafting
famous
menu.
relatively quickly. He started stand-up
crafting
in
menu.
61.
Crafting
He's on The Tonight Show
Tab.
by 63, I believe.
Right.
So he kind of skyrocketed. He gets a recording contract.
Yeah, might as well have that
puts
too,
out-
then.
That first album that we just heard was titled. This shows you how much comedy doesn't hold up just from a language perspective.
Ooh, okay.
Bill
emotes.
Cosby is a very
Cool.
funny fellow.
That is
right. I'm sure people back then were like, "Oh, Bill, you rascal."
See, himself is a great name. I like that name a lot.
Executables
Yes,
radio.
That's very good. But yeah, Bill Cosby gets a recording contract. He's won a bunch of Grammys for his albums, and then he gets I Spy, which brought him to a new level. And then he has shows throughout the 70s, which kind of led him to the Cosby Show. So we'll get back on that track. But like I said, this isn't a typical episode.
I don't know what my
in the
scab
sense
menu
that
is,
I go
but it's gonna be
blow
after.
by blow through Bill's career.
And then
That's
emotes.
been pretty well
There we
documented.
go.
I'm more fixated on other aspects of my life.
Yeah, here we have him talking about black acceptance.
Yeah, so Bill Cosby was criticized back in the day for not taking
Okay,
what
that's just
people
my
felt
scab
his
menu.
stance
That's my
should
craft
be
menu.
racially.
I don't have a scat menu yet.
You know,
Okay,
not,
cool.
not kind of beating the drum. That
So I need to go in
a lot of his
here.
peers were at that time.
This is like
But
Rust.
I found him in a lot of instances. I found interviews where he's talking about
So I need
race,
rope
and this is one of them, so let's hear it.
sprig.
I
So how do I get
liked
rope?
Amos and Andy. I did not see them as ignorant blacks.
Ah, okay.
See,
makes
but that's a
sense.
different way that we accept certain things. I mean, there are certain routines that I can tell on a
Oh,
stage
easy.
which deals with an all-black audience that I would not tell on
All
television.
black everything.
Wouldn't allow it because there are some white people who would laugh at that and say, "Yeah, that's them, and that's why they ain't gonna get the so far from the sun." You understand what I'm saying?
Practice
So
one.
Amos and Andy had to be taken off. Although I enjoyed it, although in the confines of my own home, we might say, "Yeah, brother Andy, we're
Now I
gonna
gotta
do the
equip
so forth and so
it.
on." But we don't
two.
want the white
Hold
people
on.
laughing at us
One.
because
One.
so far, you know, it's just America
There, I did it,
has
see?
allowed these people who are against us to still exist.
Beyblade, let it rip.
It's interesting. It's an interesting perspective that
Hmm.
I,
Sweet.
you know, can't. It's hard for me to challenge what Bill
This game would
Cosby
be fun
is
to
saying,
people.
'cause
Wonder
I
if
was
Dayla
neither
wants to play.
alive in the 50s or 60s, nor have I been a black person of any generation.
Alright, so
what the
analyze a
fuck do I know?
peblet, eat some
But
food,
I
look for
at
more
it
equipment.
from this perspective, and say, shouldn't the answer to things you don't like be counter programming, essentially? Like if you don't like what Amos and Andy are doing,
science. Ooh, a spear.
make
I'll
the
take the
opposite
spear.
program, which he kind of was on I Spy.
Because I need
by
a
all
weapon.
accounts, like Bill
This is
Cosby's
my
character in I Spy,
tool.
it wasn't a black man on television. It was just a guy
So
who
let's
happened to be
check
black.
out
Like,
and
they
see
could've
what
easily
I
had a
need
white
for a
guy
spear.
play that role.
Just more plant fibers.
So,
Cool.
like to me, that's what you do is create counter programming.
That's what you
Bill
do.
got very
You
into,
diversify.
and I think this grew as he
Housing
got
goes
more
up,
powerful.
market goes
is
down.
Censoring people, telling them what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say, how they should and should not act. And like I said, there's that quote from Dick Cavett where he's like, "Listen, I'm not gonna tell anyone else."
I would assume there's fall damage, but I don't know the
People,
threshold
and
for
based
it.
on the time that this was, he was probably talking
Mutations.
about Eddie
Uh-oh.
Murphy and Dice and Kinnison, where he's like, you know, these people will fill up Radio City Music Hall as fast as I could.
Okay, we'll craft
There came a point
one.
where Bill Cosby got powerful
I need some
enough where he felt
rope.
like he could tell people what to say.
Hot
he could
craft
control
ingredient.
comedy. He
Oh,
could
I like
control
that. That's
black
good.
culture,
That's good.
in stand-up and on television. So him saying there, like, I think Amos and Andy should be taken off television.
Okay,
I think is
2,
indicative
3.
of a
No, we're
larger
gonna put that on 2.
symptom of his ego that
That on
grew
3.
as years progressed.
Here we have. him
Ooh, I
talking
can
more
throw
about
it.
sitcoms.
Okay.
There
Ooh, I'm
was
hungry.
a problem when the Cosby Show came, before the Cosby
Okay,
Show came
give
on.
me 1 second. I need
and
to
that was,
set that
I
to
was
my thumb
quite
button.
liberal.
Control it.
Cable was in. I was quite liberal
nope.
in feeling that my children should see, and it was all right to see shows where there was cursing, where teenage boys and girls ran around, drank beer, and talked about sex, and then had sex, and then told their parents what they wanted to do, and then the parents let them do it.
Oh.
And after watching about 20
Okay,
of those shows, I began to feel that my children were seeing enough of these things to actually believe that this could
Okay, that's fine, 'cause I
be
need
the
to do
fun
that.
of the real world. And so I
And that
moved
opens
in
up
and
R
I
then.
monitored what they were looking at. And I watched network television,
Now T's opened
sitcoms,
up.
and I found that
Okay.
people were getting jokes off of thrill words. Well, my boobs are too small, and the audience would laugh. You have a pimple
Unload.
on your behind, and the audience would laugh. Well, that wasn't up to the level of let's say Father Knows Best, of Ozzy
There's
and
no
Harriet,
dodge.
of
Okay.
William Bendix, of Lucille Ball, of Carol Burnett. I felt that the writers were taking an easy way out, producers were taking an easy way out.
3 people in an apartment, none of them married, and here comes so-and-so's father, hide in a closet for 24 minutes. It just didn't mean or do anything. And I decided that I wanted to see something else on television.
There's so many
It was cheaper
commands.
for me to come back and
Honestly.
do this particular series
Okay, I don't
than
need any
throw
of
away the
those.
TV sets I owned.
So, I mean, it's been pointed out 10 million times, but how interesting is it that Bill Cosby was offended by an episode of Three's Company, and he's simultaneously drugging and raping women?
I know.
I think one of the great bits ever that Chappelle probably doesn't get enough credit for is when he goes on a rant about American history. He talks about women's suffrage and the Kennedys getting shot and Martin Luther King getting shot. And he does this whole a beautiful breakdown of history. And
Jump,
it's amazing to
interact,
think that
cancel.
The entire time, Bill Cosby raped
Relocate
50
building.
women.
Pick building. Customize.
I also want to know who that one
Photo
person is when he's like, the
block,
audience falls for all these tricks. Like you
unload.
say, pimple on your behind, and then like one person laughed their ass off.
Equip.
Yeah,
Good.
the thing is, like,
Peeper. I don't know what peeper is. But
I think
I'll leave it
that's
on X.
really. I don't know. I have a tough time with that because I look at like Larry the Cable Guy, and I think like, yeah, that is it. To me, it seems like dumb humor. But then I'm like, the guy was selling out fucking arenas. Like he was a massive act. So
build
that
many.
whole entire crew, like that needs an episode, like the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Like I don't get it.
For sure,
We'll just
like
put
Ron
to
White, I think is such a
insert.
misplaced there.
Oh yeah, he's one of my top 5 like all
Right,
time. I
it's
love
very
Ron.
strange. But even like, I really just hate Bill Engvall. But that's not for this. That's for a different episode.
He is the fucking worst.
That's for a different episode. But my point is, are all those? Is it up to me because I think that's like lowbrow humor or whatever? Is it up to me to be like, well, all those people are wrong, so no one should do it?
Oh, that's
now,
not fair.
Cosby saying,
How do I
want to
cancel it,
make counter
though?
programming? People go out and watch Eddie Murphy. I want to make
Okay, cool.
something
I can just block.
opposite, where parents who have less tolerance
Find
for
water.
that sort of language or sexual content or whatever, or maybe they just want to watch something with their kids. I want to make content for those people. That's terrific. But to call Eddie Murphy up and say you shouldn't be doing that,
Well, I have 3 hot bars. That's
thing.
nice.
Like to me, the proper line, as I mentioned, Seinfeld, but like Nate Bargatze right now is the quintessential clean comic.
Right.
Like
I'm
he's
supposed to just climb up
massive.
there, right?
And he came up with all these guys in New York. Like his peers were, Big J. Okerson and Dan Soder and Mark Normand and all these guys that are much dirtier than him.
Feeling refreshed.
And Nate now has a YouTube channel where he puts other comic specials up. He produces things for people. And he says, hey, I'm going to produce clean comedy because TV clean basically is what he calls it. Because like I liked that. I kind of liked growing up, and the idea is not that
Find
everything
some
you have to
food.
be exposed to HBO level programming at a young age. But then Nate will
What could
also
there possibly
promote
be for
Big J's
food?
special, which might be the filthiest content you could find in comedy.
Sure.
Like Nate Bargatze will promote a guy that's talking about clit piercings. So, like that's what I respect is saying, hey, this is how I do it. And if you don't like how I do it, or if you like multiple things, there's other ways you can find
sap.
that. And to me, that's why I think, from a comic perspective, that's
Ooh,
why
now we're on
Cosby's
the
the
ball.
worst guy. Rape whoever you want, I say.
Rape schmape, am I right?
Hey, if you're able to get away with it for decades, maybe you deserve it. What I'm saying is,
Maybe you deserve it.
it's the wagging
Okay,
your finger at comedy that's wrong. That's where I draw the
Mike.
The last few years of his life have been miserable, but think how glorious the previous decades were.
line. Right. That's exactly right.
Here we have about selfishness.
So that's about the threshold for fall damage.
The title speaks for itself and how absurd it's going to be.
Yeah.
Coming from Bill Cosby's mouth.
Selfishness plays a large role in our lives, and many times we do things to see if we can get away with it.
Hold on.
Probably-
You're telling me this guy wasn't leaving breadcrumbs?
Oh, there's so many breadcrumbs for this guy.
I mean, sometimes you see what a woman's drug tolerance is. Is she gonna stay
Ooh,
awake?
I don't know what's going on down there,
She
but it seems
noticed
way
me.
out of
Maybe
my
she's
power
asleep,
level.
but eventually she'll notice me, right? These are the kind of things you test when you have massive power. Just Dick Cavett nodding his head. Or Donahue, whoever this is.
It's like a Bible-sized.
Is that a beetle covered in mushrooms?
This guy left looking back at it.
To see if we can get away
Whoa!
The more power
You don't want
have,
this?
the more you have to control yourself in terms of using and abusing people.
Where you at?
No, you don't.
And
little bitch.
I think that there is a supreme being, but I also think that it is our job to be as sensible as we can and not as selfish. Think twice, and then go on with what you believe in.
But you better let me come in you.
See, these clips are kind of embodying, to me, what is wrong with the Cosby legacy and trying to separate the art from the artist. Because that's really the core of what I wanted to break down in the episode. Like, is it if you're making a list of the greatest comics and you have Cosby in your top 5, is that somehow wrong?
Eat it.
And the answer, of course, is no. It's not. It's not wrong. But I do understand why, for a lot of people, it might be hard to separate, because Cosby is a guy. Not only was he a monster behind the scenes, but he was also preaching to you the opposite. Like, that's what's really crazy. And the fact that his crimes were so thought out and organized. It's not like he was a guy with a drinking problem who made a mistake once. This was an organized thing that he carried on for decades, and meanwhile would go on shows and preach to you about a higher power and how you should conduct your family, how you should run your
radiation,
family and run
cool.
your business. And Cosby was just in your face, telling you how to act all the time, and that's ultimately what I think leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. Like you mentioned Michael Jackson earlier. Michael Jackson was a psychopath.
Are
Like,
those
he was
mushrooms?
nuts.
They are.
So to me, if I hear bad,
And then
come on
beetle
the radio,
shrooms on it.
I'm not like, oh, this guy was awfully disingenuous. Like, it doesn't occur to me, really, you know?
Right.
With Bill Cosby, when he's telling you about a nuclear family and his relationship with his wife and things like that, it's so transparent. It's in your face how much this guy was lying to you.
That's what it is.
So I do get why turning on the Cosby Show or an old Cosby record is might be tough for people to swallow.
Well, that was cool.
Right, and I don't think we have it, but like that Spanish Fly bit where he...
I purposely didn't include that because I wanted to include that one other people have heard.
Yeah.
I just wanted to include a full depth of how hypocritical this guy was.
But you hear that and you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, he just maps out everything he's done.
Well, it is. It's also another reason I didn't include that is because it more points a finger at society.
What does that mean?
The idea that Bill Cosby went in prime time on with Larry King and was like, the girls sometimes they do whatever. You give them the Spanish fly.
Oh, he alerted everyone, didn't he?
And Larry's like, oh, you
Oh,
know
that
Bill.
ant.
Stop telling him our secrets.
No one was like, hey, that's a little weird.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is back
okay,
then people were
ouch.
like, just shut your mouth.
Or, I mean, like, he's a comic. So I think more realistically, people were like, he's probably
Okay,
joking.
well,
But it
gotta
comes
go
across
bye-bye
like
then.
the most genuine thing I've ever heard anyone say in my life.
Yeah, we have the power of hindsight, though.
That's true. Next we have Tommy Smothers.
You
But
ain't
real
getting
quick,
away this
Another
time.
thing too is like there's definitely people
Oh,
that were at his
sheesh.
employ that should be arrested.
Oh my God! This was it's
For like an accuracy rating to
on
this
a
thing?
small scale, like the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Bill Cosby was the Catholic Church.
Exactly.
Like there were cover-ups happening all over the place.
Yeah, people who see something all of a sudden get moved to a different comic.
Yeah. Yeah, you're on a different NBC show now. All of a
Yeah.
sudden.
But this is Tommy Smothers.
Yeah, so one of the Smothers brothers, I had never heard this controversy, but Phil Donahue asks him about it. I'll fill in
there's
some
too
of the
many.
blanks after Bill gives his side of the story.
Are you sorry that you punched Tommy Smothers in the face?
You must want me to get a lawsuit or something.
All right.
I'd rather not talk about that because after it happened, it was all over, and
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take
there's
fall
no
damage.
apology
It was silly of
necessary,
me.
and I will not apologize to him for it, and I think that Tommy understands me better now.
How do I cook then?
He knows why you punched him.
He absolutely does. He's well aware of why it happened.
But you don't want to tell us why.
No, it's none of your business.
See, he caught me doing something.
He was pulling me off of someone.
Oh, okay, I can use clover.
He said, "What are you putting in that
Gotcha.
drink?"
Choppy cheese.
Cocked him one. So
Need clover leaves. Cool.
This is also hilarious. Just like this idea that Cosby was a family man and everything. So at the Playboy Mansion,
You better go away, man.
I guess Tommy
I want nothing to do with
Smothers,
you.
who by his own
Do I have a carry
admission
weight?
at the time was a bit of a loudmouth. He started just laying into Cosby about the civil rights movement, saying that Bill Cosby
I don't
wasn't
see it
doing
carry
enough. He
weight.
should be more outspoken about black issues and things like that. And I guess he got into his face enough that Cosby just fucking laid him out. The reason I found that clip interesting is a couple things. A, that's something I never knew about Cosby. Like that, I find that pretty interesting. But B, his answer there is, I think, indicative of what he was. It reminds me a lot of much different. What Bill Cosby did is much, much worse than this guy. But like, when you look at Tiger Woods, when Tiger Woods basically lost everything because he was cheating on his wife, you look at it and say, like,
Now what?
why are you living your life this way? If you want to fuck every girl you meet, why would you get married and trick us into thinking you're a family man? Because that's your ultimate downfall. Now, again, I have to reiterate, Bill Cosby was committing monstrous crimes, while Tiger Woods was just fucking women consensually.
Right.
But my point is, Bill Cosby wanted to portray himself so desperately as someone he wasn't. Like, he sort of, again, wags his finger at Phil Donahue there for asking him a question about this. And we'll get to Bill Cosby really controlling interviews later. But to me, that it stood out because he so desperately wanted every aspect that you knew about this man filtered through him. And to me, that's poison for comedy. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to take those darker elements of yourself and make them funny. So most comics would take that Tommy Smothers incident
Can I
and
eat
make
mushroom?
it a 10-minute bit. And then eventually you'd do a show with Tommy Smothers. Like, it would be a whole thing. But Cosby's like, hey.
Oh, it does, yes.
You gotta breathe.
Yeah, Michael Jordan went through something similar, except he didn't punch anybody.
Yeah, and to be clear, all the examples I
Where
use,
is my
Cosby
hunger?
is worse
Up there
than
in the
Michael
right.
Jordan, Tiger Woods, all these things. Bill Cosby's worse than all of these people. I want to make that very clear. He is a true monster if you look at the things he was doing. And like Craig pointed out, like the Catholic Church, like it was an organized. He was a predator constantly.
Yep, people around him are just as guilty.
Well, not just as guilty.
Not just. I mean, when you're drugging women so someone else can fuck them, he's just as guilty to me.
Right.
But here he's talking about abuse.
I mean,
I don't know how to start a fire.
Child abuse, I believe, right?
Yeah, tomato.
And this is again. Now, I will say for that time, maybe this doesn't stand out as much because we also talked about a clip with Jerry Lewis where he's talking about beating his kids.
This game is Rust.
With Joan Rivers. He was on Joan Rivers' show. And he was talking very matter-of-factly about beating his kids. So I'll give you that different time. But just look at the way he's talking about abuse here.
And I'm not too sure if at the time a strike may be as wrong as a talk that didn't work. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, if at a time when I say something to a child of mine and a child of mine decides to leash back at me, and I say, I said, do this, and the child then becomes outrageous, my opinion, and I physically
apply a form of, for lack of a better word, discipline. Or if I sit and talk to the child and explain and say, I love you, which I do more than I hit, but the child goes off and does it again, you understand? I failed verbally. Why is it a verbal
Bad idea.
is not as bad as a physical
I knew it
failure?
instantly. I'm sorry.
So people who say abuse, yes, abuse I don't believe in. There's a thing that I love to
dying
speak
has
of.
little
My mother and
penalties.
father gave me a
Hell,
beating.
I do lose my stuff.
It was
but now
not
what's in my
abuse.
hot bar?
Yeah, these women, they had to learn they said no thank you to me, and they had to learn a lesson, you know? That's lesson teaching. It's not abuse.
Well, that's fine. Your mom doesn't love you. Oh, she would stop you from getting.
Just the way Cosby thought of abuse, like he was doing what was right. That mentality is so fascinating.
No. You can't have my spear.
Like I said, in stand-up and comedy, seemingly, you do kind of have to be genuine.
Where'd my spear go?
More often than not, the audience will be able to see through you.
Wow, okay,
unless
that wasn't a
you're,
cool
I guess,
game
incredibly
mechanic.
Talented like Cosby, to the point where we all thought he was Cliff Huxtable. You know,
right?
Like that's what America thought of the guy, and you know, I gotta say, quite frankly, Bill Cosby getting away with all these.
I don't want to be out here where I am.
You know?
he's
what a master of his craft he was.
He's that good.
He really was that good. So say what you want about the man, but he was a talent.
Oh, I knew that was gonna happen.
Speaking of the Cosby Show, though, there was another show he was almost on.
I don't know. I can
so
swim
it's
now.
interesting. Cosby's career is interesting because the Cosby Show, obviously a massive hit. I Spy, big hit, but there were a lot of failures too. And even in the clip we played where he's talking about sitcoms,
Ladybug
he's talking about a show. I think it was
chills
called
out
Cos,
here.
That was essentially the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
But it aired in the 70s, and it got canceled.
Why are they so good at running?
And Cosby was basically. It's funny to think about Cosby saying in the 70s that.
What the hell is that?
His show was too wholesome for television. Like it was so outrageous. The Brady Bunch was. took America by storm.
Hey.
They couldn't handle Bill Cosby, I guess.
Are you friendly?
AKA, they're
Probably
like,
not.
yeah, no, America sees this black family. And like, I don't see that.
Well, there's some. He said there's some of that too, like the idea of America basically not being ready for a black family.
What if I want to kill it?
So that's something that he endured. But this is a show.
Is it leading me somewhere?
Near and dear to my heart. Cheers, favorite of me and Chris Clever, as you guys know.
Yeah.
So the reason I find this interesting is because I wonder.
Why
how
do
this
sometimes
would
I'm
change,
accurate and then sometimes I miss?
Cosby's career. What's your take, Charles Brothers?
Believe it or not, one of the people that we had considered early on for Party Sam was Bill Cosby. At that time, he didn't.
I teamwork with you.
I was interested in doing television. The network. I believe it was the network. But it should have been a different show. But what we did.
Ow! I gotta learn to block.
One of the things we established as a principle when we were casting is let's go with unknowns. That would have been the Bill Cosby Show.
Ow!
And we didn't want that. Somebody once told us never have an actor's name title of your show. Then you can't.
Excuse me.
So that was never going to be a danger anyway. But still, in fact, it would have been the Bill Cosby Show, and it didn't feel right.
Yeah, they went on to say that Shelley Long didn't deserve that. You know, they're like, we like her. She doesn't need a Cosby cocktail.
Bill Cosby is Sam, then just Kirstie Alley's just passed out in a booth all the time.
Well, what led me to that is, and this is again focused on his career, not his the atrocities he committed, but career-wise, I wonder how Bill Cosby would have been different if he was like, if he was known for a show like Cheers.
All right, I'm just gonna go back to base.
The Cosby Show. Does he stick with that family dynamic? He's on a show that takes
Craft
place
a
in a
torch.
bar that is a little more, I don't know the right word, but racy, I get, whatever you want to call it.
Adult?
It's about
That
a
was
single
close.
guy. I don't know how close the Sam Malone character would have been, but the Sam Malone that Ted Danson played is a coxman, basically.
Right.
Like, if Cosby's
Sleep, sleep,
playing
sleep,
a
sleep, sleep.
character like that, is his career entirely different? Does he drop the facade of being this guy who tells you to, you know, pull your pants up, turn your hat straight, and stop saying naughty words? That to me I find interesting. But more so, what I find interesting is the idea that Coach and Sam on Cheers were originally slated to be Bill Cosby and John Madden, which is a show I absolutely wish was aired. But
I need that.
that would have been tremendous.
Can I please get a table read?
Well, not anymore.
All right, the mysterious machine. What's this like?
Yeah. So we'll never know the answer, but it is interesting to me. Now, he was very straight-laced in his stand-up and everything, but I guess that's what I wonder. Again, the crimes would still.
Haha, I actually killed one.
As Bill Cosby gets more powerful, but I just mean from a comedy perspective, would he be so locked in to dictating how other people run their careers?
Well,
oh, right.
More breadcrumbs coming up here. We are at Bill Cosby himself, and the intro is something.
This is first of all, not even to what you're alluding to. I just wonder why was it a thing in the
probably
time
giant leaves.
Don Rickles would sing, Red Fox would sing, Rodney. Why for some reason at that time, everyone felt like they needed to be a showman. So
what was she talking
I
about?
had
A
never
basketball
seen
court
Bill Cosby
then?
himself in full. I had just seen clips prior to this, so I didn't realize it started this way.
Darling, I thought we made a deal that you would stay
Interesting. Okay, hold on.
till we had some time to kill. Now there's the pattern, a little feet. Don't get me wrong, the child is sweet. I hope your womanhood's complete.
Something wrong with this capacitor, it looks like.
I'm sorry, I thought it looked like more. There's just the 8 of us. Stereos in every room. Just the 8 of us. Sounds just like the sonic boom. There's just the 8 of us. I know this house
Got him.
is doomed.
I gotta say, you know, I know what you're alluding to, but I don't think Bill Cosby
And I
would
fall
take
through
too
there.
much umbrage with a gal that wasn't on the pill, you know? It's not like they were negotiating their arrangement beforehand.
It's such a problem that he's like, I got to put this in song.
Ooh, light show.
It is weird, though. I guess that was
it
just
didn't
a
work.
different time. I guess that was a thing
Looks
where
like one laser
all
is
these
blocked
guys
and the
were,
other
you know, they were
shorted
song
out.
and dance men. They were showmen.
Time to get
But,
fixing.
very funny to me. But this is the opener from Bill Cosby himself. Again, proving, like, he absolutely was funny, and you can see why, like, his stuff holds up and meant a lot to comics in particular.
Oh, that was blocked.
Yo,
Okay.
cat, today's only Thursday for crying out loud. Thursday. You gotta wait till Friday. It's always strange. I've had a lot of people work for me, and I found out it's
Okay,
a funny
now what?
thing that you give them Saturday and Sunday off, and they work so hard to get to those 2 days, and those are the 2 days that they totally destroy themselves.
Do I have to go that way to find it out?
You think to yourself, you say, my goodness, I really pounded these people and
Interesting.
worked them to death. And Friday
Right.
comes and they say, yeah! And then they come in Monday. So, boy, am I glad to be back here. I'm no good on my own. I was given 2 whole days and I just went crazy.
That is a very funny take, and it's actually a take I don't know that I.
Oh, because I don't have any mushrooms. Because I ate them all.
Right.
Like the idea of him talking about the weekend, like why do you treat your body that way? It is very funny and does hold up many years later. And Chris,
Can I
Rock
trick
said
somebody
something
into
about Cosby's
breaking it
style.
open?
We have the clip, so I don't want to blow it. But it is like he is a unique voice in comedy in that way. But you might be right. I was thinking more about what you said at the top of the show, where like, is Cosby the before the controversies, obviously, the adoration you heard around Cosby was obviously the Cosby Show, and then you know the Jell-O
Yummy.
commercials and all his wackiness. I don't remember
Can I close it?
average people being like, you know, I hated the Cosby Show.
No.
But I loved his
Okay.
stand-up. I heard that from a lot of comics. I don't know. Leave in the comments. I'm a young whippersnapper, so maybe I'm just ill-informed. But did most people like Cosby's stand-up, or was it the show? That set
Shouldn't
him
I live
apart?
in here?
Because when I go back and listen to his stand-up,
Can
I'm like,
I?
now this guy I kind of like. You know? This guy wasn't drugging and raping. That was the TV Bill Cosby.
Watch this with blinders on.
This guy's pretty good.
But not all comics enjoyed him.
No, certainly not.
Like
we have Eddie Murphy
Bill
here
Cosby.
telling a tale of interacting with Bill Cosby.
And one last thing I wanted to say about Cosby, like his stand-up, is like before listening to more of his stuff for this specifically, I always kind of thought of him in the same vein as like Robin Williams, the way I think of Robin Williams, where I'm like,
Yeah,
I get
do
that
it.
he's a legend, I get that he influenced a lot of people, he doesn't do it. And then when I listen to some of his stand-up now, I'm like, maybe I was too young to really give a shit about it, or maybe I was just thinking of the TV show. But I'm like, his stand-up is pretty good. But it's hard for me to like him. It's hard for me to separate the art from
Tons
the
of
artist.
stuff to analyze.
Not so much because the monstrous things he did in the bedroom. That's all well and good. It's more, how do you talk to Eddie Murphy like this? That's what I've got a gripe with.
You cannot say filth, flying
Brass?
filth in
How
front
do I
of
do that?
people. And I never said no filth, flying filth. Because you know what I'm talking about. I can't use the type of language
Oh,
that
like
you
that.
use, but you know what I mean when I say filth, flying filth. And I never said no filth, flying filth, and I don't know what you're talking about. I'm offended that you called. Fuck you.
There's emergency.
And that's when Bill got pissed. He said, that's what I'm talking about. You cannot say
Okay.
fuck
How do I drop this?
in front of people. And I got mad. Because he thought that was my whole act. Like I just walked out on stage and cursed and left. And I managed to stick in some jokes between the curses. You couldn't give no curse show or walk out and say, hey, felt for him, motherfucker, dick, pussy, snot, and shit. Good night. Good night. Suck my dick. Bye-bye. I was pissed off. I was so mad. I called Richard Pryor's house up and said, yo, Richard, Bill Cosby just called me up and told me I was too dirty. And Richard said, the next time motherfucker call, tell him I said, suck my dick.
I think I said the same thing when we did the episode about Raw. His Cosby
Ooh,
is
it's a
obviously over the top
bumblebee.
cartoonish. His Pryor
Hey,
is
Bumblebee.
Spot on.
it's wild. But Eddie Murphy's
Watch it. Speedy
1,000% right, where it's like there is still a craft to it. Like now you're talking down to people. Like the idea
Okay, now I have
that
new
Eddie
stuff to build.
Murphy just walked out and is like cocksucker, and everyone's like, "Oh, Eddie, you son of a bitch!"
He did it again.
And now people get to a level of fame where Eddie could maybe do that now. You know?
Okay,
Like if
how
Eddie
do I
Murphy
start
just walked
this
out on
fire?
stage now and said "pussy," people would be like, "There he is, the nutty professor."
I would lose it.
Yeah.
I would stand up and start clapping.
So there's ultimately a point to be made, but it's like Eddie was at the top of his game then, you know. So that as a comedy fan, that's what's bothersome to me about
I
the way
need
Cosby
sprig
conducted
and
himself.
dry
Now,
grass
as a
chunks.
human being, it is much more bothersome the idea that this guy was like, "Hey, don't please, if you could, don't say fuck." I find fuck very offensive. Now, what I'm going to do to this woman, you could use a litany
And
of language,
sprig.
but I prefer you didn't.
Yeah.
Hey, I took advantage of her. We don't use the R word, please. Like that, I mean, that's been well covered, but that is a wild hypocrisy. Like that's insane.
Okay, there we
but
go.
He became a very strange, bizarre old man.
See, this is the Bill Cosby I knew. I wasn't introduced to Bill Cosby himself. As a
Oh,
kid.
that easy?
I knew the guy that was on Kids Say the Darndest Things, and he's in the Jell-O commercials, and then I watched him. Well, I'll tell you. Play this, and then I'll tell you more about the Cosby that I knew as a boy.
I want you to leave this school, Zoe.
Okay.
Zoe, damn it,
Wow.
don't put
Community
I'm
college
doing
down.
it.
You hear me?
I'm really
okay.
doing
You better.
it.
You better. You go. Now listen.
By the way, he's at UMass Amherst.
What is the connection? I've always wondered. Did he go?
He got a degree from there, but it turns out he got an honorary degree from like 85 University. But I think that's where he was taking his whatever his higher education was.
Question.
I didn't put it down. I didn't put
I'm
it down.
gonna pick up this chair.
I swear.
Drink this apple juice.
You're cowarding, Zoe. Sit up straight. Get out of here.
Okay.
Get out of here.
Yes, sir.
Now. Look, you got a wheelchair, all right? Your wheel falls off. You got to move around. What the hell are you going to take it to a mechanic and say, we don't know how to do the right wheel. We're working on them. You're going to sit there and wait or say, taxi.
He became a crazy old man.
He's yelling at a woman in a wheelchair.
I've always wished I could find it.
That's pretty funny.
He was on Nesson. For those of you outside of New England, that's where the Red Sox and Bruins broadcast their games. He was on a Red Sox pregame show once. And it was the most bizarre television appearance. I've never been able to find it. So if you guys know where I can find that somehow, please send it to me.
Okay, that's all the planks I need.
Kind of like that, where he's just ranting and raving.
And 4 bricks.
And he became the Eddie Murphy impression. Like, we heard the older clips of him. That's not how Bill Cosby talked. But he became that, where he's doing Cosby later in life. And he's like, if you needed to fix the wheel, just stand up and fix the jippity zappity bop. This isn't a human being anymore. What are you doing, Bill?
That impression was so good, I feel guilty talking to you.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
Just as good as Eddie's. But yeah, he like made these Letterman appearances and stuff. But I do have to say, I watched Far From Finished when it came out.
Wow, I did it.
And he sits on the stool.
And now I can do other things.
Like, okay, I get it.
I don't know what.
Even though, even crazy Cosby did it, he was a pro stand-up. But
craft armor.
What's interesting about Bill is other shows have been taken off the air for different levels of controversy, and I'm always like, well, that's silly. With Cosby, he's preaching to you so much about how you should live your life in everything he does. I do understand why it would be hard for people to watch the Cosby Show. To me, pulling the Cosby Show off television is actually, unlike many other moves like that, that's actually like a financial move, where I think networks are saying, like, people are going to turn their televisions off if they see this man, tell Theo what he should do on his first date.
So I'm just in a hoarding mode
advice
now.
He gave, just right down the toilet.
Yeah, like people will vomit if they see that. So that, again, I do understand. I will say, however, when you are putting together a list of the greatest stand-ups of all time, unless it's your favorite doesn't have to be Bill Cosby. We may have a list coming out soon of my own, and Bill Cosby won't be on it just because he never spoke to me. Like, his stuff never really spoke to me when I was a kid or anything.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about, the undisputed greatest of all time, he does have to be in there.
Yeah. Ooh, bam.
Speaking of all-time comedy,
Where does Corpse go?
They fawn over this man.
Is this the comedian clip?
Yes, it is.
So this is from Jerry Seinfeld's Comedian. Great documentary about stand-up. If you haven't watched it and you're a stand-up fan, you certainly should. The ending has been soured with history, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So this is the time, you get to the end of this documentary and you're like, holy shit, all this advice on comedy, now we're getting it from the guy, the legend. And like I said, now it doesn't quite have the same feel, but this I've always enjoyed from comedians.
Yes. Really? Yeah, because of the theater. I would rather do, I don't know what this is, it's 26, 27. I'd rather do 2 of these than one in an 8-seater. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What the hell is
this?
this?
Is a comfortable size. I feel I can put
leave.
I can stop. I can go over here. I can veer back. I can come around the side.
This is normal. Dude, really? At 2 o'clock in the day?
So I can make a band-aid now, right?
I love it, man.
Is there like a quick crafting option?
Love it. Isn't it fun that you have taken what is comedy and what is you?
Delicious.
And
okay, and now is there a sort? Is there a way to sort my inventory right there? Okay, cool, perfect.
I mean, you can go to any bar. You can be like 70 years old, you know, and you can stand beside Bill Russell.
Oh, nice and full.
Muhammad Ali, Willie Mays, Joe Louis. And when those guys are saying, you know, I played the shit out.
Real quick.
Need a little bit more water, but
I think maybe it got cut, but he names those athletes. I think Jerry doesn't like that Colin, but he names those athletes, and Colin Quinn goes, "All right, name a white guy now, Bill. It's getting obnoxious."
That's insane.
I think that's fire.
All right.
You know what I mean?
You kidding me?
It's one of the great moments of being a performer when you can say, you know, what I had.
Nice try, nice try, nice try, nice try.
And that's what you've done.
It's interesting to watch. Like, you see the reverence that Seinfeld has for him, and I think Seinfeld has the right approach. I've heard him talk about it in a couple different interviews where he's like, "Yeah, the crimes are horrible. Like, I think you can separate those things, and I can."
Nice try, loser.
Things that Bill Cosby put out, and I didn't particularly enjoy the news about him later in life. You know?
All right.
It was kind of a tough pill to swallow. Especially when he's got that clip right there of Cosby just being like, "You're great."
You're the best.
He's like, "Damn, you know, I can't really show that to anybody anymore."
It is interesting to me, though, and it's like, you know, people can get indignant about whatever they like, but it's like when you see things like the Family Guy clip or the 30
Nice,
Rock,
good prank, good prank, good prank, good prank.
Hinted over the years at Bill Cosby being some kind of monster. People kind of applaud them for that and say like, "Oh, see, they knew and they were trying to say something." Well, they could have just said something, you know. They could have just said, "Hey, this guy's raping people." Now, I will also give the other side of that
There's some
argument.
goop down here.
You know, Felicia Rashad worked with the guy. It's not on her to know everything he's doing. She might be like, "Oh, Bill liked to fool around." That doesn't mean she knows he's drugging and raping women, you know.
Plus, like Family Guy, like you could hear rumors, but if you're gonna come out and directly say he's a rapist, you better
know.
Yeah.
That's true.
Slime mold stuff.
But there was accusations in the 90s or early 2000s, I forget, where it got pretty public. But it went away, so everyone thought he was innocent or something.
John Amos did an interview where he was talking about he guest starred on the Cosby Show, and he said he was just talking, going about his business. However, he usually casually talks.
Whatever's rumbling down there,
said something. But he's like, I don't even remember what he said. Goddamn or fuck or something. And he said the set got quiet, and Felicia Rashad came over to him and goes, "So John, we don't talk like that here." And he goes, "What the fuck did I say? What are you talking about?" He's like, so you can't curse here. And he was like, "Oh, gee, so that's how much of an iron."
I'm sure I'm gonna
fist
die from whatever this is.
Additional flavor scheme available.
Yeah, Iron Fist by day and night.
Well, yeah.
A what?
But another comic talking about Cosby's genius, Chris Rock.
Yeah, so this to me I find very interesting, and this is like, you know, Chris Rock's opinion I put in pretty high regard. So this
Are you
I
gonna
think
come
kind
kill
of
me or no?
So he makes an interesting point about Cosby that at first I wanted to argue, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe he's right.
Right.
Cosby's the greatest ever. Cosby's so good, nobody even attempts it.
Yes.
Where Richard, as great as Richard is, I do a little Richard, Eddie does a little Richard, Martin does right. It's like you could actually attempt it.
Yes.
Cosby's
boo. Bad
you can't
take.
even try it. It's like, what is this?
Yes.
What do you mean? You know what I mean? Like the genius of Cosby is that he has over all comedians. The reason comedy, just say movies or whatever, anything, doesn't get the respect that drama does, because comedy rocks. And it just does.
Yes.
And over periods of time, things don't tend to
they don't hold up.
They don't tend to hold up because a lot of things are just predicated on a reference point. None of Bill Cosby's material is predicated on a reference point. Every joke is so fucking good that it withstands the reference, and almost all of them
What are you talking about?
would work today.
Yes, because
Same way, and you can't say that about any other comedian.
That's so interesting.
I would, and Chris Rock might agree with this, that you could probably change that to Norm as well now.
Yeah.
You can't say that about any other comedian. Norm's kind of in that category. But
Wow.
my knee-jerk instinct was to disagree with it. Like, oh, a ton of guys have been influenced by Cosby. And the more I was thinking about it, I was like, well, his exact style, I can't think of anyone.
Cool, they burnt out.
Big J sits down.
Yeah, right. But no, even like if you look like Gaffigan and Sebastian, like I'm sure they were somewhat influenced by Cosby. But they're not doing there's not a clear lineage that Cosby has, which I think is even more impressive than Norm, because Norm's like Norm's kind of a weird character. Where you look at Cosby, you know, he's wearing a suit and talking
Well,
about
that's
his
the
family.
problem. The science wasn't
That's
on.
incredibly impressive to be as unique as he was and not have people completely rip you off. And I think that's true. If you leave them in the comments, if you guys can think of like a clear lineage of Bill Cosby, the way we talk about other comics, you know, like Seinfeld's got a ton.
The coaching tree.
Yeah, Seinfeld's got a ton of them, like Hedberg, Sam Kinison,
David Tell.
Absolutely, yeah, Regan. Like
Dan
all
Cook.
these guys have
Nice, they didn't get
spawned,
away.
Generations of comics. But Cosby is one. It's like, yeah, I can't think of a direct
You suck.
comparison. I think that's a pretty good point.
Pussy ants.
To me, I still don't look at him as the greatest ever. But to use the same argument, like it is why I kind of look at Norm as the greatest ever. Is like no one could ever do Norm.
No.
And to me, that like I could maybe argue that Louis C.K.'s stand-up is funnier than Norm's, but other people have done Louis C.K. since Louis C.K. No one can really do Norm.
I need to
like,
listen to some of
imagine
these
anyone else trying to like
comedians.
that moth joke. Like,
It'd be incredibly difficult. Yeah.
there's not a single joke until the last line, and it's 5 minutes long.
Right.
But
Whatever.
we are at the clip that started it all, baby.
Oh yeah. So this is what's really crazy, is that Hannibal Buress was looking at it kind of matter-of-factly, and he had no anticipation that this would come out. He was just doing a joke on stage, and someone was filming it. You know what's weird to me is like, why was someone filming this part? I get maybe just enough people have their phones out, but it seems like they just start filming when he's talking about Bill Cosby and end at a weird point too. But this is what started the controversy.
Has the fucking smuggest old black man public persona that I hate. Let's get some TV. Pull your pants up, black people. I was on TV in the 80s. I can talk down to you because I had a successful sitcom. Yeah, it was great movie, Bill Cosby, so brings you down a couple notches. I don't curse on stage, but yeah, you're a rapist, so I take you saying lots of motherfuckers on Bill Cosby himself if you weren't a rapist. For the most part, it's fucking public Teflon image. After it's been on stage and people don't believe people, they'll make it up. I mean, Bill Cosby did a lot of rape allegations. No, you did. That shit is upsetting. If you didn't know about it, trust me. You leave here, Google Bill Cosby rape. That shit has more.
I'll tell you, what it really exposed more than anything is how bad journalism is in this country.
No shit.
Like, all it took was Hannibal saying, essentially, in my mind, what made it a controversy was Hannibal saying, "Yeah, no one ever believes me, but go home and Google it." And enough of those people went home and Googled it and
really
posted it on social media and everything that it caught steam. You know, and now it also comes at a time like this is.
Ooh, wow.
2 years, maybe a year and a half, I forget
Sounds like
exactly,
it's all clogged
before the Me Too movement. So this comes at a time where things are changing in this country also. Like, people were more ready to accuse people in power of things like that. So that's an element of it also. But it really does expose how horrible journalism is, and how I'm sure how many more
So I need some aphid
things
meat.
of this nature are being covered up every single day, because all it took was Hannibal Buress saying, like, "You guys know he's a fucking rapist, right?" And the right person seeing it and going like, "Oh yeah, no, it checks out. He is a rapist."
You know what? I did Google it.
Yeah, within a couple of weeks, we knew this guy was guilty as sin.
I think that video led to two things.
What's that?
One, the downfall of Hannibal's career. He was never the same after that, I feel.
So I'll tell you what's interesting. Well, tell me your other thing, and I'll get back to Hannibal.
I think that led to Chappelle
Where'd it
starting
go?
a trend of locking up cell phones.
Oh, maybe. Interesting. Yeah, that's very that and Kramer maybe, but yeah. What's
Is it
interesting about
here?
Hannibal is people say like Hannibal got famous because of the Bill Cosby thing.
No.
Hannibal has some amazing material.
Yes.
Oh.
Animal Furnace, and I'm trying to think of the name of the other one. My real name is Hannibal, I think.
I think so. Something like that. I mean,
Yeah. Those are two great specials.
What
I think
the hell
Hannibal
is
Buress
that?
Is a tremendous
I
stand.
bet it's very deadly.
And then I
Oh, it's
watched
the
him talk
mushroom
about this
pit,
on
right.
Rogan. He had a Comedy Central deal already in place. He wrote for SNL and 30 Rock. Like, his career was going very well. He had a Comedy Central deal
There, got
that
it.
was supposed to premiere like a month. It was supposed to be announced like a month after this Cosby
Watch
thing.
it. Speedy
happened.
coming through.
And they had to push back the announcement of it because it would have looked like Hannibal was like, "Hey, the Cosby guy got a TV show, everyone." And Hannibal was like, "I have no interest in being linked. I don't want this to be the defining moment of my career." And then he was on the Bieber roast.
Yep.
Because Comedy Central was trying to promote that show. And
Dang
that
it.
was every joke, is Hannibal took down Bill Cosby. So I don't know what happened, where Hannibal got into, like, music. He started, like, doing music. He was, like, DJing or something for a while.
This is very
I don't really
difficult.
know what's happened to Hannibal Buress, but he was on track. Like, him and John Mulaney were at the same level at that time.
Right, right. But like he got so much backlash for that.
Which is insane, by the way. He literally did nothing wrong.
Right.
He wasn't doing it for attention. He didn't want that out there. And he basically said, "I kind of
Wow.
regret doing it. Like, based on how it affected me, I don't know that I would have
Well.
done that again in that way."
Right, because he was taking off. He was the
Yeah.
biggest thing in stand-up, and then that happened.
Which
And
I think if Hannibal put out a tour
Thank
today,
you.
I think it would sell very well. I don't think he'd have a problem. You know what I mean?
yeah, but he also got into like weird stuff with like, didn't he like move to like Taiwan or some shit for like a year?
Yeah, I think it fucked him up in a weird way. I think there's not like guys like us will never understand
Why?
what that does to someone.
Right.
Because it was on such a global scale. And don't forget, at that time, there were people that were like, Hannibal's lying.
Right. Well, that's what I mean.
Like, there are a lot of
back-
people that believed Bill Cosby for a long time.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that fucked with him in a very weird way, and it derailed yet another career killed by Bill Cosby.
That dream's dashed by that.
Because
awful
Hannibal was, it was and is a great comic, but yeah, definitely threw him for a loop. So yeah, yet another bomb.
So how the hell do I get that
Bill
freaking
Cosby.
aphid?
And then he just ended up with Eric Andre. That's just about it.
So for a time there was pushback. There were people that said like, "Oh, this is all bullshit." And you know what? Again, this didn't even dawn on me till right now. This is before Me Too, and it was at a time where like a lot of the cancel culture stuff was really just starting to heat up.
All right, I guess I'm gonna go
But
sleep.
it was at a time where you could still, like, if you just based on nothing thought Bill Cosby was innocent, you could just say that. And it was kind of like a popular opinion. Like, now you would get a lot of shit. And this is where I sometimes say, like, I think what cancel culture did in most ways is very negative. But there is a push and pull to things where it's like, you know, sometimes if you're just talking out of your ass saying, like, Bill Cosby didn't do anything wrong, you know? There's a push and pull to things, I guess is my point. But we're at the AP interview now, right?
Yep.
Okay.
This gives you a real insight into the kind of monster that Bill Cosby is. You know, like, we don't have video footage of him doing what he did to any of these women. To me, this is about as close as you get. Watching this, him trying to intimidate this interviewer, is about as close as we'll ever see to what the real guy is like.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now, can I get something from you? What's that? That none of that will be shown.
got some moves.
For anyone that doesn't remember, by the way, what's really weird about this is he asks Cosby about the Hannibal thing going viral, and Cosby goes, "Oh, we don't talk about that because there's nothing to it. We don't talk about that." So he gives basically a nothing answer, and kind of intimidates the guy into moving on. That's what makes it really weird. Is if that came out, the worst that would have happened is you see footage of Cosby saying like, "I don't really want to talk about that." Yet Cosby is so about controlling every little thing of his life. That's what's interesting about these guys. Same with like Weinstein and all these powerful guys that got taken down.
Oh, okay.
They're so used
I'm back
to
to where I started.
controlling their life that when things start to unravel, they forget like, oh, people are out to get me. I can't just literally do whatever I want anymore. I can't tell this guy I'm gonna ruin his career.
Why does that
being
happen?
Filmed and my fucking lapel mic is still on, and have that not get out.
Right.
I can't promise that myself, but you didn't say anything.
I know I didn't say anything, but I'm asking your integrity that since I didn't want to say anything, but I did answer you in terms of I don't want to say anything of what value will it have.
I don't think it will.
Ma'am, what'd you say?
Sorry?
What did you say?
I don't think it has any value either. Yeah.
And I would appreciate.
Well, by the way, that lady is trying to appease Bill. She's like, you know what, Bill, you're absolutely right. Whoever that lady is I don't know what her role in all of this is, but that is, she's standing in the place of whoever has helped Bill Cosby cover all this shit up for so many years.
Let's get him the fuck out of this room.
Yeah.
If it was scuttled.
I hear you. I will tell that to my editors and I think that they will understand.
Well, I think if you want to consider yourself to be serious, that it will not appear anywhere.
I appreciate what you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we thought, by the way, because it was AP, that it wouldn't be necessary to go over that question with you.
No,
It's interesting to
protest
watch
this
a guy
too
like
much.
this manipulate some young dumb interviewer.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Oh, I thought you guys had standards," and that's where you see again. It's very easy for us to like, let's say this interview never saw the light of day. It would be very easy for us to criticize this interviewer, but this kid is in a weird way another Bill Cosby victim, where he's like, "Oh fuck, this guy, it's Bill Cosby. He's gonna ruin my fucking career if I put this out there."
Right, because this was prior to him getting in all the.
Is there a chest I can build?
So that's what happened to so many people. Not just Cosby's victims, but people that worked on his show, his manager, and like the people that represented him. Like everyone thought their career would be ruined because this guy was so powerful.
In the past 2 months, and I think my boss is wanting me to ask.
If you will just tell your boss the reason why we didn't say that up front was because we thought that AP had the integrity to not ask.
And one other point on that, one of the 3 major TV writers for the AP in Los Angeles called me up and asked me, Leno, and so we're not addressing it. So she said, fine, and she just closed it off.
Hey, bitch!
I think you need to get
You know
off.
the 80 rapes? We told you not to talk about those.
No, where's that food?
She said, fine, and
there it is.
She just closed it off.
Okay.
And I think you need to get on the phone with his
I will, yeah.
person immediately.
Oh, I don't know the other ingredient.
Okay, thank you.
See, like, all right, that's kind of whether or not it's what he meant. To that kid, it's symbolizing like, hey, can we get this kid fired real quick?
Right.
So immediately that kid's scared into like not doing anything. That's why I say that footage is as close as we'll ever get to seeing the true monster of Bill Cosby. Now there was plenty of weird stuff like him,
Ooh, shield.
hey as he walks out of the fucking trial,
right,
and shit like that.
Do you already have the poncho?
And he's a free man now, based on a
technicality.
Yeah, technicality, a flaw in the legal system, basically. He walks free, and we've always heard these rumors of Bill Cosby booting up a stand-up career again. It seems like he's thought better of that. At this point, it still hasn't happened, so...
And we'll be there if he does.
Oh, yeah, we fly him. A Gearhead meetup, wherever he goes.
Wherever this show is, we'll be
I don't
there.
know how to peep a creature. I don't know what that
Would
means.
it be a tough ticket to get, or would be the only people there?
I think it'd be a tough ticket, and he'll
think
get...
so too, yeah.
I think he'd get booed pretty heavily the whole time.
It'd be interesting, yeah. So, Bill, let us know if we'll be
There's
front
another
row with
aphid.
bells on. If you want to fire something up, come to Boston. You're a
Yeah,
bass guy. It was also weird to find. I was just looking into like his doctorate from
Where?
UMass, which is he's not a doctor. It was just bullshit because of his.
I
it was
don't
honorary
see it.
because of his, like the Fat Albert Child programming.
Yeah, he's a
Used in classes, so they gave him a doctorate.
he's a Jill Biden doctor.
It's really annoying.
Well, whatever. Craig's been waiting to insert that.
I wasn't.
But it was at like 30 universities. There were like 50 different stories. Bill Cosby's diploma revoked here. Revoked
Where
here,
is
revoked
it?
Crazy.
So, yeah, that's I don't know. That's the kind of the true irony of it all is that I mentioned the
Yay.
Chappelle joke earlier, but there's some great like vulgar jokes that came out of Bill Cosby's scandal, oddly, showing Bill how expansive comedy could be. Like, Jim Jeffries has a tremendous joke where he
They're
talks
two
about
different
Bill
slip.
Cosby
Oh,
names.
okay.
Now,
What does this do?
as far as rapes go, they weren't the worst. He wasn't holding him down and fucking raping him.
So does it increase
And
speed?
the bit is much funnier than I'm giving it, but it was a very funny Jim Jeffries bit, which
Yeah,
to
looks like
me
it.
is like the ultimate irony because Bill Cosby forever would have tried to stop jokes like that, not about him. He would have tried to stop jokes about rape or anything else. Meanwhile, was committing horrible atrocities.
I wonder if Bill Cosby's ever had a good night's sleep. He was always just like, tomorrow's the day.
Okay, cool.
Well, no, I think
When I'm
you're
fighting, I
absolutely
just hit
wrong
sex and
because
switch.
as you see in that interview there, I think he was so sure of himself that he could squash anything.
True.
Anyone speaks up about him, they're done. So I think he, didn't miss a wink of sleep.
Yeah, he's not such a moneymaker at this point that he has that pull.
That's actually the scary thing. Now, to be like, he did have a deal with Netflix. He was gonna have another show, maybe a stand-up special or something.
Okay.
But it is scary to think about the fact that like when this stuff always comes out.
All right,
like,
it's about time for me to hop
when
off.
you're just of no value to them anymore. If you're of value, they'll help you come back. But if you can make them a few bucks, then
Yep.
we'll look the other way.
Yep, there goes my alarm.
It's time for our favorite segment.
Well, you guys know how much I've been talking about what a hypocrite Bill Cosby is. And frankly, I think that's the worst thing about Bill Cosby.
Now, do you think Cosby's legacy will be hurt?
Yeah.
You do, huh? I mean,
that might be my favorite. This is an amazing clip, but that might be my favorite part is Seinfeld would go, yeah.
That's the funniest thing he's ever said.
Yeah. You do, huh? I mean, there was a comedian, Patton Oswalt, he told me, I think the worst part of the Cosby thing was the hypocrisy. And I disagree.
You disagree with that?
Yeah. I thought it was the raping. That's my feeling, most rapists are hypocrites. You don't meet many go, I like raping, and I know it's not politically correct, but by God, people go, well, he's not being a hypocrite, and that's the worst part.
There's a couple great Norm Cosby. First of all, if you want to see that bit in his stand-up, it starts Hitler's Dog on Netflix, but it's like the tail end of it, like it kind of like fades into the end of that joke. So I think the full version, it might be in his like Gotham, Live at Gotham set that's on YouTube. But he goes into further detail where he's like, and second is the drugging, and then the scheming. Anyways, I've got a whole list. But also on Letterman, and I couldn't find the Letterman version, which I think is the best version. There's a version of him telling the story on Dennis Miller. But I couldn't find him on Letterman, which he'd probably get taken down for anyway, so it's for the better, I suppose.
We'll probably get taken down for just playing that last clip.
I know. Damn you, Jerry.
Did you have enough money?
But Norm has a story about Bill Cosby calling his father, which is great. If you don't know it, you should look it up. I won't spoil it. But it's a kind of a it's a nice story about Cosby. And Norm went on Letterman after all this, and he goes, I used to have a Bill Cosby story. Probably the best Bill Cosby story there ever was. Now it's not in the top 10,000.
Yeah.
We have of course had to get a Norm reference in for our return here on Why You Laughing, but this was a pretty easy one because that's one of my favorite Norm clips ever.
He's the best.
I like the idea of Patton Oswalt saying that too. I think he's high-minded.
He's like, this guy might be on something, but maybe if you got rid of them after.
Well, I don't get into that kind of conspiracy. But what I do get into is blindmike.net. If you could be so kind as to go there. And listen, to build my empire, I've had to do a few things, but Craig has looked the other way for me, and I appreciate that. So go to blindmike.net, support everything we're doing here, and remember,
We need to get one more red Ant-Man below.
Even when the skeletons come out.
That's right.
But become a member. Patreon,
I don't have time to do that, though.
YouTube,
so
platform's easier for you.
That'll be for
early
next time.
access like this you could have had a month and a half ago. If you heard a buzz, if you're out at a diner, you're out at a coffee shop, and you hear buzz, people talking about this Cosby, Why You Laughing? You're like, I looked at the feed, I'm not finding it. That's because these people are on the Patreon,
That's right.
So,
almost 1,000 of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, maybe. Who knows? By the time this comes out,
All
maybe
right.
we hit it.
We should. If we haven't.
Thumbs up.
But if or you can support the show for free. We also appreciate that. Like, subscribe, comment, all that
Alright,
stuff.
we're gonna
helps
hit
more
the
people find
save
the show.
button, because I guess there's
Tell a
manual
friend about
save.
it. Post it on Instagram, whatever the kids are doing these days. Tell people about Why You Laughing if they'd be into a history.
I did it.
We appreciate you guys spread the
Alright,
word.
well.
And also go to verygoodShow.org.
Oh, look. Hey, look. Blind Mike's wrapping up as well.
If you like
It's up
the
every time
format
for me to
of this
hop
show, but
off.
You're also into true crime. That's Craig's true crime show.
Excuse me.
That's right.
Thanks for hopping in, Clean Crevice. Sorry I immediately missed you as soon as you hopped in, but it was nice to have you stop in anyway. I like this cat guy. I can't remember his name, but the story of him is quite interesting.
Why are you laughing back?
Alright, and of
If
course,
you like
thanks
the
for Coleman
bonus
for
episodes
hopping
we
in
do
as well.
Particular, where we break down old radio
Gotta get
segments,
ready for work, so I hope y'all have a good day.
Eric the
Sure it's gonna be a good
on the
one
Howard
if you
Stern
make it
Show.
one.
He has every call that Eric ever made to the Howard Stern Show, and they're going one by one. Every Friday night, they're doing a long live stream, doing each and every phone call from Eric the Midget. So, if you're a Stern fan in particular, go check those out. And like I said, kind of similar to Why You Laughing, but they're live, they interact with the chat. So go check that out on Friday nights or go to the back